Uh, he has a very illustrious bio and regarding the things he's done around the Cincinnati community. He coached amateur baseball in the Cincinnati area. He has coached it for over 50 years. He was a freshman baseball coach at Moeller High School for 31 years, and he still is. Also, and Moeller JV golf coach. He was inducted into the Moeller High School Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. And he was a shot clock operator at the University of Cincinnati basketball for 40 years. Official scorer for the Reds for 41 years. And he was appointed by Major League Baseball to the Advisory Committee for Official Scorers. And lastly, though, in 2016, the Hamilton County Sports Hall of Fame award for participating in over 5,000 sporting events in Hamilton County over the past 50 years. Quite a bio. Very distinguished. So, Ron, we'll turn it over to you. And what I think I'm going to do is we'll ask questions. People can put their questions in the chat. If there's anything urgent that I'll look at them along the way and I'll interrupt. But is that okay with you, Ron? We'll just do most of it at the end. You're on mute.
Yeah, you need to unmute yourself. I've started muting everybody one at a time. So okay. Good.
That works for you?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and especially talk baseball this time of year. I'm certainly looking forward to getting back to baseball. Last year, we did all of our scoring from our basement. We obviously weren't allowed to be there in an abbreviated year. But let me start by giving you a little more background, about myself. As a young boy, I grew up in Bond Hill and went to Woodward High School. And, all I wanted to do as a young kid was be a professional baseball player. And, I had the normal idols that we all had back in those days, Ted Kluszewski and Gus Bell and Wally Post. And, all I wanted to do was be like them. And the other person that was one of my idols, believe it or not, was the Reds public address announcer, Paul Summercamp. And, for those of you who grew up in Cincinnati, you knew Paul had a very distinctive way of introducing players by repeating their names. And I would stand on my back porch, in the afternoons and give the Reds starting lineups and kind of emulate Paul. And so, baseball has been in my blood. My father would take me to the games all the time. And all I wanted to do was play baseball and be a part of it. And so, I grew up knothole baseball and I went out for a team. Many of you who are Cincinnatians might remember Pilder the Builder. It was in Bond Hill. And Mr. Pilder had a team and I went out and tried out for that, got cut. And so I wasn't able to play baseball. And when I was 15 years old, my dad said, "Hey, why don't you try coaching a team?" And, that he would sponsor it. And my next door neighbor was Ben Bernstein, of the restaurant and company. And Ben and a guy named Irv Marcus, I was 15 years old, so they were kind of the overseers, but I was the head coach. And we got kids from Bond Hill School and from St. Agnes across the street. And we had a baseball team, and I coached them all the way up till I graduated college, or I went to college, graduated high school. And then I went to college and came home and started coaching summer baseball. And again, I was, never was able to play. I ended up being the student manager on the baseball team at Ohio University. And learned a lot of baseball from the then coach Bob Wren. And some of you baseball fans, I'm sure, have heard of Mike Schmidt and Bob Brentley. They were all classmates of mine there. So I was part of the student manager on their team. When I came home, I started coaching summer baseball and got involved with a lot of the, upper level summer baseball teams, and ended up meeting Glenn Sample at the University of Cincinnati, who offered me a job as an assistant coach there for 11 years, from basically 1971 to 81. And then, in the off season of 1979, Major League Baseball decided, that prior to that, all their official scorers were sports writers, and they started to become conflicts with the sports writers and the ball players. These sports writers would be the official scorers. They'd sit in judgment over these plays, and then they have to go down into the locker room and get stories from the players. And Earl Lawson, I remember, got into a fight with I think it was Veda Pinson or somebody like that. And so anyway, the off season in 1979, the sports writers informed Major League Baseball that they were no longer going to supply scores for the ballpark. So Dick Wagner, who was the general manager of the Reds at the time, came up and gave Glenn Sample a call and said, "Hey, we need to find some scores." I was 33 years old at the time, and Glenn said, "Yeah, he'd be willing to do it." And he kind of brought me along, and the two of us started scoring. Our first game was opening day, 1980, and again, I was 33 years old, and that particular day, we had a game at UC, so Glenn had to stay obviously back with the team, and I go down there and score that game. It was kind of funny. I mean, we really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And so I go down there, and Jim Ferguson, who was the publicity guy at the time, I met him, and he showed me up to our booth. And he didn't do this, but it almost felt like he did. He opened the door and stuck his shoe in the small of my back and shoved me in there and said, "Get in there, you're the scorer." And so I walked in, I walked down the steps, and who's sitting right next to me but Paul Summercamp, my boyhood idol. And it was just kind of chills went down the back of my neck, and sitting down next to Paul Summercamp, a person who I emulated as a young man. And so we get to about the second or third inning, and Paul leans over to me and says, "You have to keep track of the time of the game." And I said, "Oh, you do? I didn't even know that." And so I looked at my watch and tried to figure out what time the game started, and we go from there. And then a couple innings later, John Popovich shows up and sticks a camera in my face and starts asking me a bunch of questions. And if my technology is good, I've got that interview here. It's kind of interesting. I'll see if I can do it for you here. Put it on the camera here. Hang on one second. Can you hear it, everyone?
Yes, we're okay.
This year, for the first time at Riverfront, two non-writers were shared the scorer's duties. UC baseball coach Glenn Sample and his assistant Roth. Roth was in the booth for today's.
That's Paul Summercamp sitting next to me there.
Official scores are not always popular people. Their decisions can affect batting and fielding averages, and in a job of judgments, there's always someone to disagree, often the players. But we had to ask Roth if he hesitated about taking the job.
No, I feel very confident in what I'm doing, and I feel that I know the game of baseball. I've been around it long enough, and as long as I feel confident, I don't think anybody else can vary my thinking.
But being an official scorer is not just like coming to the game as a fan.
It's a different perspective altogether. You're used to coming to the ball game as a fan and basically looking at the position positioning of the players and where the ball is hit and so forth. And now we have to just change our thinking all around and look at the ball constantly and make it happen.
There was one of those calls today that many fans and the official score disagreed on. It occurred on the Junior Kennedy hit to right. Some fans thought Gary Matthews committed an error, but Roth scored a double for Kennedy.
I felt that Matthews slipped on the wet turf, and it was my opinion that this cannot be counted against. The elements cannot be counted against the fielder. If the ball was hit the same on the AstroTurf, same situation.
Haircut's a little different.
Don't care for umpires who hesitate on their call. So we asked Ross if the scorer should also respond quickly.
No, I think it's more of an accurate situation. It's not like an umpire who has to make a split decision. When I see a play, if I feel it's a questionable call, I'll sit and try to regroup in my mind what went on, and then I'll make a decision.
For Roth, scoring is a game of numbers, scratching little notations in a book and coming up with who did what, how many times.
Pitching line on Bradford, 2 innings pitched, no runs, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts.
The calls are numerous in this job, not all are easy.
I think each call is in and of itself, and you have to just cross it when you come to it. From where we sit up here, a pass ball or a wild pitch sometimes can be a questionable call because you're not really down on the situation. But it's not a critical call. Roth has a beautiful view of the game, a seat a lot of fans would love, but a job not too many would accept. John Popovich for the 7 o'clock report.
Times have changed, haven't they? Let me get. Okay. Let me get regrouped here. 1 second. So, I mean, that was 33 years ago, and literally, things have changed dramatically with computers and everything. But what I thought I would do is just try to give you a little insight as to exactly what we do, during our scoring, what a typical game is about. Now, with the computers and everything, everything is kind of taken off into a different direction with the analytics and everything. But this is a scorecard that we use, and everything we do is color coordinated. So we need some quick recall. Like everything you'll see here in red are the strikeouts. The yellow marks are all the runs that have scored. Anything in blue are base hits. The pink marks this way are pitching changes, and the vertical are substitutions, batting pinch hitters, and things like that. And we have to, when I take a pitcher out of the game, we have to give pitching lines. So we come right over here with the colors, and it helps us here with the pitching lines that we can announce right here. And we have to announce it to the entire press box. So every score in every city and they all have their own different systems. This is just a system that works for us. Our starters here are in black. Our blue, we put blue over the subs. These letters here, the A, B, and C are pinch hitters, and if they're pinch runners, we use 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I'm sure a lot of you all keep score yourself, and most people just do it in pencil and that's it. But what we need to do to recall things and announce them in the press box is a little different. So, and then over here is the game summaries that you'll see in the box scores. When you look in the newspaper, those are the type of things there. And below, this is the official summary of the game. Unfortunately, with the camera, I can't read it backwards, but that was the official summary with the winning and the losing pitcher at the time of the game, and how many runs, hits, and errors that the teams have. And that's just one side. Then we got the other side that basically does the same thing. We're located in the press box, and we're right behind home plate. We sit in the press box which used to be between the print media and the electronic media, the Reds TV booth. But last year, which never came about, they moved the print media down to a different level. And in our own particular press box, our smaller press box, I'm in there with the public address announcer, who is Joe Zerhusen, sits to my left, and the MLB datacaster is to my right, which Greg Gages, I see, is on the call today, and he's one of our great datacasters, and we see a lot of each other in the summertime. And then the clock operator and the FTC sits in the back row behind us. So that's our little kind of fraternity and where we sit. What do we do? There's additional things that we're responsible for. We have to, like I said earlier, which I didn't know my first day, we have to keep track of the start of the game. So I come down there with a stopwatch, and as soon as a starting pitcher steps back, I hit the clock, and when the last pitch ends, we stop it, and that gives us our time of the game. Anything that happens incidentally within the game, the clock continues to run, including umpire replays and things like that. If something unusual happens, obviously rain will stop the clock and start it up after the rain delay. If there's an unusual disturbance or something where they stop the game, it's not game related, we'll stop the clock and start it up. When I first started some 40 some odd years ago, we used to have maybe 10 or 12 or 14 games that were under 2 hours. And of course, now if you get a game under 3 hours, you're lucky. And my friends in the press box, and every time they go over 3 hours, they poke me and say it's my fault. And they've actually called those Ronathons. So, but we, like I said, the times of the games have averaged close to an hour longer than what they were years ago. 1987 or 88, when Tom Browning pitched his perfect game, I think that game was like an hour and 52 minutes. So, I mean, that was really, really rolling at the time. But what are we responsible for? We're responsible for determining, obviously, hits and errors, pass balls, wild pitches. We have to announce double plays. We announce the number, the pitch count, the stolen bases, and the numbers. Player changes we used to do, we don't have to do that anymore. That's done by the PR guys. But who are the official scorers? There's about close to 90 official scorers, 3 in each city. And we're kind of a unique group. There's more U.S. senators than there are Major League Baseball umpires. And, how do you become an official scorer? Well, they're changing it now. In later years, I told you how I became. It was just out word of mouth. But now they're going for other people. They have a test that they have to take now. This year, we've got 5 new scorers. I know there's one in Boston, one in Cleveland. Actually, there might be 2 in Boston this year, and one in Houston. And I'm not sure where. Chicago, I think, has a new scorer. But we used to be independent contractors to Major League Baseball, but now we're actually hourly employees. Last year, and I'm not familiar with it, but the tax laws in California changed, and they had to make everybody now, as a result of that, in-house hourly employees of Major League Baseball, where we used to be independent contractors. The official scorer has the sole authority to make all decisions concerning the application of rule number 9 of the rule book. This is Major League Baseball rules, and rule number 9 is a rule that actually pertains to scoring, and we have to know that rule inside and out. There are 14 major sections in rule number 9, plus a few others. What is a hit? Some of you guys I know are baseball fans, and I'll pose a question to you and see if any of you can answer it. But how do you get 5 hits in an inning and not score a run? Does anybody know? How about Greg Gages? Is anybody raising their hand, Herb?
About 2 double plays.
No,
Just one double play would do it, Barry.
no. There's only one answer.
One double play and 3 singles loads the bases, and you got 5 hits.
No. So Ronald's going to score. The only way you can get it is you have to have a runner hit by the batted ball. The runner's hit by the batted ball, he's out, and the batter gets a base hit. So you get 3 base hits that load the bases up. Then you get the next guy gets up and hits a runner coming home. He's out, and there's another base hit, and the same thing happens again. If you get the double plays, don't work because you get out of the inning. You get 2 double plays, that's 4 outs. So that doesn't work. Well, anyway, that's one of the trick questions. But there's 6 ways to get base hits. The first and the obvious one is when a batter reaches base or any succeeding base safely on a fair ball that settles on the ground, that touches a fence before being touched by a fielder or clears the fence. That's one way. The second way is when a batter reaches first base on a fair ball hit with such force or so slowly that a fielder has no opportunity to field the ball. So, it's hit a rocket and he doesn't have any opportunity to field it. It's a base hit, even though he might kick it or something like that. I'll show you later here with the analytics, you get a lot of these balls that are hit 100 miles an hour or more. It's tough for these guys, especially first base and third base, to field these balls. So, and if a slow roller, if they come in and they field the ball, they don't have time to field it because the runner is going to beat it out. So the third way is when a batter reaches first base on a fair ball that takes an unnatural bounce so that the fielder cannot handle it with ordinary effort, or it touches a base. Sometimes the first baseman or the third baseman might be playing behind the base. The ball hits the base and takes an unnatural bounce. It's a base hit. Or it might hit the seam in the AstroTurf or a rock or something like that, and it just takes an unnatural bounce. It's a base hit. We always say if a hitter fields a ball defensively, takes a defensive position and jumps back on the ball, that's a base hit. That's not ordinary effort. And I'll talk to you a little bit about ordinary effort. When the fourth way is when a batter reaches first base safely on a fair ball, unless the scorer feels that he could have caught it with ordinary effort. In other words, sometimes a ball go up in the air and there'll be 2 guys converging on it. They'll say, I got it, you got it. He'll take it, and it drops. Unless we feel he can catch it with ordinary effort, it's going to be a base hit. And the fifth way is what we talked about earlier, when a batted ball hits a runner before the fielder has a chance to field the ball, that's a base hit. And the sixth way to get a base hit is when a fielder unsuccessfully attempts to put out a preceding runner, and in the official scorer's judgment, the batter runner would not have been put out at first with ordinary effort. And the rule book always said to give the batter the benefit of the doubt. So if you have a runner on first base and the first baseman is playing, deep, and he fields a ball and going to his right and throws it to second base, trying to get that runner going to second base, and it's a good throw, but it's just too late to get the runner at second base. But he couldn't have put him out at first base either. It's a base hit. So those are your 6 ways to get base hits. And the big push is ordinary effort. That's the buzzword, for giving him a base hit. If a fielder can field the ball with ordinary effort, and what is ordinary effort? it's the ability of the average Major League Baseball player to field that ball at that position. If any of us tried to field that ball, we don't have the same ordinary effort as a Major League Baseball player does, obviously. So, it's what's ordinary effort for the average Major League Baseball player playing shortstop. And in today's world, they're moving guys around and, the shifts and, sometimes a third baseman is playing over between second base, and that's not his ordinary position. So you got to kind of take a lot of that stuff into consideration. The next thing we have to do is determine the value of base hits. Is it a single, a double, a triple, a home run? And just because a batter goes into second base doesn't mean it's a double. If they slide by the base and they don't hold the base, they're going to get a single. They have to hold the base when they're sliding, as opposed to if they run past the base on their feet and get tagged out coming back, then they'll give them the double. So they had control of their body on their feet. So we can give them a double if they round second base, touch the base, round second base, and then come back and get tagged out. That's a double. If they slide past the base, it's going to be a single and a put out. Whoever throws them out, 3-6. A runner gets another way, if there's a runner on first base and the guy hits a ball what appears to be a double in the right center field, the runner goes from first to third, and the right fielder comes up and throws the guy out at second base, but the guy at third base gets over there, throws the guy out at third base, then the guy doesn't get a double. If they throw out the preceding runner, you don't get the next base. You'll get a single. I know I'm talking a little too fast, but I'll try to do that again. So runner on first base, guy hits the ball in the gap. He gets thrown out at third base, and the batter runs into second base, thinking he has a double. Well, he doesn't. He only gets a single because the guy in front of him got thrown out. Same thing if he's going for a triple and they throw the guy out at home, he won't get a triple. He'll get a double. So that's the other thing. The other one is the game-ending hit. You can only give the batter on a game-ending hit as many bases as the winning run came for, unless that last hit is a home run. So, if a runner is on third base and he hits the ball off the wall, all we can give the batter is a single, no matter where it is, because the winning run's coming from third base. He only gets one base. Are there any, I don't want to go too fast, Herb. If there's anybody that has anything, I'll be glad to answer them as we go through these different sections. We determine the value of RBIs.
I'm sorry, sir. I had a question on that last
sure.
one. That was
Go ahead.
on when you're saying you can only give him a hit. So if a guy's on second base and you hit a ball off the wall, he scores from second, but the guy only gets to first. Does he get a double or a single?
This is on a game-ending hit?
A game-ending hit, yes.
He has to go down and touch second base.
Okay. So he still has to earn the base. Correct. He has to get to second. Okay.
Correct. Right.
Thanks.
But on your same scenario, if that guy is on third base and he does go down and touch second base on a game-ending hit, he only gets a single.
Gotcha.
Because you can only give him as many bases as the winning base comes from. Okay, RBIs. We determine RBIs. Who gets an RBI? So here's one that a lot of people and even the ball players miss out a lot. We have a runner on third base, and the ball's hit to the first baseman with less than 2 outs, and so there's only 1 out or less. And the first baseman boots the ball, and the run scores. The question is it an RBI? And a lot of players will say, why didn't I get an RBI on that? Well, the answer is we have to determine whether that runner on third base was going on the crack of the bat. If he was going on the crack of the bat, we're going to give him an RBI. If the only reason he went home is because he saw the first baseman boot the ball, then there's no RBI. And you'd be surprised how many baseball people really don't know the fine points of the rules. And that's one of them we've been called on before. And, a lot of times if the infield is in, the runner on third is not going to go. He's going to wait and see the ball through the infield. And in that particular case, the first baseman boots the ball and gets away, then he scores. And the batter wants the RBI. Well, we can't give it to him because he didn't go on the crack of the bat. So basically, there's three ways to get RBIs. When a runner scores unaided by an error and as part of the play began by the batter's safe hit, sacrifice bunt, sacrifice fly, infield out, or fielder's choice. So any of those things, we can give them an RBI. We can give them an RBI by a batter running or walking with bases loaded. They'll get an RBI there. The third way is before two are out, an error is made on a play on which the runner from third would have ordinarily scored, which is what we talked about. There's also no RBIs on a double play. If a batter hits into a double play, they get no RBI. Or if they hit into a double play and the first baseman drops the ball, what we call a muffed throw, there'll be no RBI either. So those are the ways on RBIs that we can give them RBIs. Any questions on that? Okay. We determine stolen bases and caught stealings are picked off. And a big thing now is indifference too. Any attempt by a runner to advance and he doesn't get there is a caught stealing. So any movement towards the next base and he gets thrown out is considered a caught stealing. Indifference is a play. The score could be 7-0 late in the game. The first baseman's playing back, not holding the guy on, and the runner just takes off. Pitcher throws the ball into the plate. The catcher doesn't move. The second baseman doesn't move. The shortstop doesn't move. They just let the guy go into second base. We can't give him a stolen base. We just call that indifference. It all depends on what the inning is, what the score is. That's strictly our judgment. Again, as is determining the value of base hits, if that runner overslides the base, he's going to get a caught stealing if he gets tagged out. The catcher could throw a perfect throw down to second base. The second baseman comes up, the ball hits in his glove and drops out. If we determine that was clearly an out, that's going to be a caught stealing. That's going to be an error on the shortstop or the second baseman, whoever was there. But we're going to grant an assist to the catcher for that. So we get into a little bit of a pickle these days on these indifference calls because, personally, my personal feelings, I think anytime any runner goes down to second base, he should get a stolen base, but that's not the rules. And our personal opinions don't count. We have to enforce the rules of Major League Baseball. And I'm perfectly okay with that. But, you get guys that are going for stolen base records and you give them stolen bases when they're not even trying to throw you out. I get it. So that's the story there on stolen bases. You do not get a stolen base on a pass ball or a wild pitch. If the ball gets past the catcher, either pass ball or wild pitch, no stolen bases awarded there. We are in charge of crediting batters with sacrifice flies and sacrifice bunts. Of course, when you sacrifice, what does sacrifice mean? It means giving yourself up. So a lot of times, and even more now than years ago, we were always taught to square around and give yourself up. Well, now most of the players now just kind of try to drop the bunt down and run, and if they get a base hit, they get a base hit, but they could be more times than not looking to sacrifice and move the guy up. So we have to determine what the situation is. What's the inning? What's the score? Obviously, a batter is not going to sacrifice when the score is 7-0. So if he tries to drop a bunt down and he doesn't make it, we're just going to call it a fielder's choice, and so he's going to get a charge with a time at bat. But it's up to us to determine that. Sac flies the same way. If there's a runner on third base and the runner tags up, we're going to give him a sacrifice fly, and the batter's not going to get credited with a time at bat. If for some reason there's a fly ball to the outfield and the outfielder drops the ball, he's obviously going to get an error, but he will still get credit for the sacrifice fly because he did his job in getting the runner in, albeit the outfielder dropped the ball. He would have scored anyway had he not dropped the fly ball. So those are part of our things that we have to look out for. Putouts and assists, we have to take care of that. Putouts are pretty basic. And they're for the most part automatic. The guy gets an out, he puts out the runner, he gets a put out. If you throw or deflect a ball, depending on what the deflection is, you'll get credit for an assist. A lot of times you'll get a hard hit ball back to the pitcher who will get his glove on it, and it'll be more like incidental contact. Well, incidental contact is not an assist, but if he changes the direction of the ball and, to where the second baseman can now field it and throw the runner out at first base, that'll be a 1-4-3 put out, and the pitcher will get an assist, the second baseman will get an assist, and the first baseman will get a put out. Any questions on any of those?
Ron, if there's a fly ball to the outfield and two players go to catch it and run into each other and the ball hits the ground,
Yes.
Who gets the error? Both of them?
Well, no, you can only have one error on the play. And actually, when we get done, I've got a few videos I'm going to show you, and that particular play is one of them. But to answer your question, if it was a center fielder's ball and the center fielder is camped under it, and the right fielder comes in and knocks into him, the ball drops, right fielder is going to get the error.
Thank you.
And but you'll see, I'll show you a play here in a little bit about that. Anymore now, later, in the last 4, 5, or 6 years, major league players or all infielders are now barehanding a lot of balls, and that's creating a little bit of havoc for us in determining base hits. But generally, on slow rollers, if they come in and barehand a ball and below their knee, we're usually going to tend to not give them errors. We say it takes ordinary effort, more than ordinary effort to do that, so they're not going to get penalized with that. We credit a fielder with an error whose misplay, fumble, muff, or wild throw prolongs the time at bat of a batter, prolongs the presence on the base of a runner, or permits a runner to advance one or more bases. Here are some of the things that you may not know. Slow handling of the ball does not involve mechanical misplay is not an error. So if the guy catches a ball and he's in his glove trying to grab hold of the ball, and it just takes him too long to get it out, that's not an error. So slow handling of the ball, he can field the ball, throw the ball to first base, first baseman catches it, the guy beats it out, it's a base hit. If a hard ball goes through a fielder's legs, it's not necessarily an error. That ball can be hit with such force that it just undresses that fielder. We're going to give him a base hit. So a lot of people say, well, the ball went through his legs, he should have caught it. Well, he didn't have an opportunity to catch the ball. We're not going to give him an error. Mental mistakes or misjudgments are not errors. A guy runs in on a fly ball and it goes back over his head, it's not an error. It's a shame, but it's not an error. A pitcher does not cover first base on a ground ball hit to the shortstop. It's not an error. And I can tell you a funny story. A scorer's nightmare, worst nightmare, is scoring a no-hit game and get a questionable call on a play. And Homer Bailey, several years ago, had a no-hitter going here in Cincinnati. It was about the 7th or 8th inning. And there was a runner on second base. And it was a high chopping ground ball to Joey Votto's right. Joey fields the ball, and Homer Bailey was late getting off the mound, and he wasn't going to get to first base, and it was a no-hitter, and he wasn't going to get to first base, and I would have had to call that a base hit. It would have been a shame, but for some reason, the runner on second base decides to take off the third. Votto noticed it. They threw over, got him out, and saved Homer Bailey's no-hitter. And I mean, I was sweating that one, because I mean, I would have been ashamed to have to give him a base hit on a ball that he should have covered first base. But that was a mental mistake or slow handling of the ball, and that would have been a base hit and it would have messed up his no-hitter. So, you know, those things have happened. In my 40 years, I've had the pleasure of, or the non-pleasure of, scoring 3 no-hitters. Bailey's was one. My first one was actually Tom Browning's perfect game back in 87 or 88. And then Jake Arrieta from Chicago was here in town and got him. But on both of those, Arrieta's and Browning's, they were just routine games, and I didn't have to worry about it. But you're always glad to get that first base hit. It's a clean base hit. The other thing, any questions on that? Sun balls are also, you lose a ball in the sun, it's not an error. And that will happen, or in the lights, that's not an error either. It's a shame for the pitcher, because the pitcher got the batter to pop the ball up and the fielder lost it in the sun. But the way the rules are made, you know, we can't give them an error on that. Okay, wild pitches and pass balls. There are other things that we have to determine. A wild pitch is a ball that's basically too high, too low, too wide for the catcher to catch. A ball that bounces in the dirt is automatically a wild pitch. A pass ball is obviously one that we feel that a catcher could catch. And we've got a little kind of a school of thumb, and we obviously can't get down and measure it. But if you can imagine, the home plate is 17 inches wide. And if the catcher puts his right arm extended out 53 inches this way, we expect him to catch that ball 17 inches of the plate and 13 inches to the backhand. So if you add that up, 23, 17, and 13, that's 53 inches. So we call that our 53-inch circle of friendship. If that pitcher throws that ball anywhere into that 53 inches, and it doesn't hit the ground, and no more than 24 inches high, we're thinking pass ball if if the ball gets by the catcher. If it's outside that 53 inches, then we're thinking wild pitch. But obviously we can't call timeout and go down with the tape measure, and so it's kind of a mental thing. But you obviously can reach further this way than you can reach that way. And if the catcher, the other thing you key on is the catcher's shoulder. If the catcher turning his shoulder like this, that's probably going to be a wild pitch if he doesn't catch it. I mean, so there's other little guidelines that we use to help us through that. We also have to determine, obviously, who the winning pitcher is, who the losing pitcher is. Who the losing pitcher is easy. I mean, it's the pitcher who gives up the run that puts the team ahead, that never relinquishes the lead, is a losing pitcher. The winning pitcher is a little more tricky sometimes. The winning pitcher, if he's a starting pitcher, he must pitch 5 innings. and his team must have the lead and not relinquish the lead after he leaves the game after pitching 5 innings. If he doesn't, then it goes to the relief pitcher who pitches most effective, and that's up to us to determine which pitcher pitches most effective. The intent is that relief pitcher pitches at least 1 inning and pitches when there's a crucial out made. So typically the relief pitcher might come in with bases loaded and gets them out of the inning, pitches an inning. We're going to give that pitcher the win if the score is tied when he comes in there. We have to determine who that's going to be, or if he comes in the 3rd or 4th inning, we have to determine who that winning pitcher is going to be. And if that guy doesn't do good, then we might go to the next guy. If 2 or more pitchers were effective, then we have to usually give the win to the first pitcher if it's a tie. So that's how we determine who the winning pitcher is. Saves is a little different. There's 3 basic items for determining the save. Number 1, he's got to be the pitcher that finishes the game. Number 2, he's not the winning pitcher. And number 3, he is credited with at least 1/3 of an inning pitched and satisfies any one of the following 3 items. He enters a game with a lead of no more than 3 runs. So if he enters the game with a lead of 4 or 5 runs, he's not gonna get the save. He enters the game with a tying run at least at bat or on base or on deck. Then and gets out of it, and at the end he'll do it. The other way he'll do it is if he pitches the last 3 innings, regardless of the score. So those are the 3 items that we can give a save to. He's got to qualify under one of those 3 things. He finishes a game, enters the game with a lead of no more than 3 runs. Either the tying run either has to be on base, at bat, or on deck, and he pitches the last 3 innings, regardless of the score. Any questions on that?
Yes, Ron. I'm curious. I heard you say the rule, and it's what I thought the rule was about when if a relief pitcher comes in, who gets the win. But it seems to me that usually the win will even go to a relief pitcher that's not very effective when one comes in after him that's effective. When the relief pitcher loses the lead and then the team scores runs in the bottom of the inning, and then somebody else comes in, may go 3 innings and not let any runs in, but the win still goes to the first pitcher. Can you give us an example when that didn't happen?
Well, if he's in the game, he loses the lead, and then they get the lead back while he's still in the game.
Well, at bottom of the inning, he gets taken out for pinch hitter.
Okay, but he came in the game. He entered the game. Their team had the lead.
Right.
Okay. Then
now he gets the win, not the save, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the inning's over. They still have the lead, correct?
Right. And the bottom inning comes and the Reds score 5 runs and take the lead back.
And they take the lead back. Well, he was a pitcher of record when they took the lead back. So you can't give a win to a pitcher who hasn't been in the game yet.
Okay.
You follow?
That's the explanation I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the runner, now, if he blows the lead and it scores tied, at the end of the inning, and then the new pitcher comes in, and while the score's tied, and then they take the lead, he's going to be the pitcher of record.
Understand. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the scenario there. Any questions on that? Okay. Those are basically all the items that we account for as official scores. In the last couple of years, when we go down to the ballpark, well, early on when I first started, the Reds only, and I don't hold me to this number, but the Reds only televised maybe 20 or 30 home games, 40 years ago. And so all we had to deal with on those 20 or 30 games was a small TV that was located in the radio booth, Marty Brenneman's booth, which was to our right, and it was located on the far side of the booth. And the only replays we got were to look across the booth, if they showed replays. And then obviously in the last 20 years or 25 years or so, now they televise all the games, and we have a TV in our booth and we can look at that. But those early on years, we'd have to go down to the scoreboard room after the game or between innings and see if we can get a replay of the play. And one thing I forgot to mention, we do have 24 hours after a game to change our mind. So I'll come home and review plays on the game, and if I feel like I made a mistake, I'll change it. But anyway, so everything is now computerized. Everything's on track, and we've got a program called Norad, and that gives you every information on every game. And let me see if I can redo this, my screen to show you here. Give me a second to reset this thing up. This is a program that gives us every game and everything we need to know. And I'll show you a first game I'm going to pull up here is from August the 19th. It's an LA Angels game versus San Francisco. And you can see, can you all see everything that's on here? It's kind of hard for me to hold it here, but
Yeah.
yeah, okay. In the lower right-hand corner, this is a particular play, but right at the top, you'll see there's, if I can stop wiggling this thing, post-game, boss, official score sheet. That's the official score sheet. And that's the data that our friend who's on our call with us, Greg Gages, kind of populates that one among the many other things he does. But if I click on that right here, this will give you, this is a score sheet that Greg, you can even comment on this if you want to get on, but this is what he populates as the game goes. Every time there's an at bat, it gets filled in there. And he when we call a hit or an error, we have to announce that before he can put it in here. And once it gets put in here, then it goes to the entire media and everything. You scroll down, there's the pitching line, there's San Francisco's, and it tells you over here who the umpires are, who the official scorer. This would happen to be Jim Young was the official scorer in San Francisco that day. But it gives you all the information there. Greg, do you have any comment on this at all? You want to?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my job is, any of you that are familiar with the Game Day app, I'm basically feeding that. So every pitch that happens, I have to put a code in: swinging strike, called strike, ball, and then whatever's happening in the game. And I'm relying on Ron for all these calls that he's just mentioned: pass ball, wild pitch, whether it was a double play, hit or error, all that sort of thing, or things he tells me to put in. And then at the end of the day, his score sheet and my score sheet have to match. He's the official scorer, so I have to match what he's come up with. But it kind of works out pretty well because we work very closely together, along with Joe Zerhusen, to make sure we're up to date on all the substitutes, any odd plays, and it's an interesting but very hard job because the game will not wait for us if there's a very complicated play. And they will keep playing, and we have to solve some of these things the best we can sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and Greg brings up a great point. The three of us sit in the front row, Greg, myself, and Joe Zerhus, and we all have to be on the same page. I know Joe's got a big job with announcing, and you know, with the gambling and all this stuff now, we've got to be very careful with announcements. And you know, when a pitcher doesn't pitch 5 innings, I have to determine who the winning pitcher is, and I can't announce it. I can't tell. I know that the media always wants to know early so they can prepare for their post game, but I can't give anybody any inclination who the winning pitcher is going to be if I have to determine it because the winning pitcher didn't pitch 5 innings. The first person I have to tell is Greg or whoever the data caster is, and then he has to put it in, and once he puts it in, then I can announce it, and then the public address announcer can announce it. But if somebody comes and asks me, well, if the game stays the way it is, who's the winning pitcher? Well, somebody can go out and put a bet on it, and that doesn't work real well with Uncle Sam. So, but that's the situation. So let me show you here. This is our Norad deal, and I'm going to go here on the left side. These are all play numbers, so I can pull up any play number in the build in the game. So I'm going to go to play number 25 in this game, and this is, and then we can come down here, and I can look at the thing, and I can even enlarge the screen so we can see the play, and it'll come back. This play was originally scored in, well, I'm not going to say, who thinks, I can't see, I guess I can't see or show of hands, but I'll tell you, this was originally scored in error.
Yeah.
And then upon review, it was changed to a base hit. And the reasoning is, first of all, you know, if a fielder leaves his feet, it's a tough play. Now they think that maybe that shortstop should have fielded it and thrown it out. But the backspin on that was so bad, you can't expect the shortstop to field that play either. So this is a base hit. We have some general guidelines also. It's not a steadfast rule, but you know, if a fielder goes any more than 3 or 4 feet to his left or right, we have to be thinking base hit. But this is the way I come home. I'll look at a play and I can look at it over and over again. So like I say, this was scored originally in error and it was changed to a base hit. So over here, you know, this will also give you what we have on here is a high home angle. So we can go over here and look at the same play from this angle. Let me get it going here. Hang on a minute. See the different tools we have here? We can look at that and see that play from that angle. Gives you a lot of information. We can also have there's a simulator on here. We can look at the simulator and you can see the runner going, you see the ball and the fielders, their movements. It's a great tool for us. Then we can go to stats. We can see right here, you see right where I'm looking at, the exit velocity off that bat was 99.70 miles per hour. That, although there's no guidelines for if the ball's hit so fast or so hard that we can't, you know, it has to be a hit or an error. That just serves us as a little bit of a backup. The pitch was 94 miles an hour. It was a 4-seam fastball. unbelievable, all the tools you got on here. So that's all on that one play. Okay, so let me show you. Any questions on that play that anybody has? I'll go to another one. Okay, so we go back here to games. I go over here to the date. We got one the same date. This would be scheduled games. This would be a Reds game at Kansas City. Hang on a minute. Let me check one thing here.
Ron, can you put it up a little closer because it's difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just a second. Let me.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to go to play number 33, which is over here. Video. We'll come back here in a minute. This is a play to the second baseman. Second baseman booted. Can everybody see that play?
Not easily, actually.
That was this was last year, and unfortunately they didn't have all the camera angles there either.
Right.
Because of COVID, and anything hit to the right side was always a problem. But this was a ball where the second baseman only took a step to his right. And they originally scored that a base hit, but they ended up giving him an error on it. Let me move to a different one. Maybe it'll give you a better angle on it. We're going to go to August 26th. Games, Washington. And we want play number 54. Here's the play you guys were talking about. I'll show it again. This is where your right fielder and your center fielder came together. So the scorer in Philadelphia thought that was the center fielder's ball, and the right fielder interfered with him, so the right fielder got the error. Everybody got that?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Generally, the center fielder has control, really.
Yes, yes, exactly. But it could happen the other way. I mean, if the right fielder's camped and you get an aggressive center fielder,
Sure.
but in this particular case, the official scorer felt that actually this was in Washington. The official scorer in Washington felt that it was a center fielder's ball and the right fielder interfered with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave the right fielder the error. Go to September 3rd. This is in Philadelphia. Play number 9. See, this was a shift. That was actually the third baseman that was playing over on the other side of the base. Now here's what I was talking about when a player makes a defensive play defensively. This guy was backing up. This ball took a bad hop on him. You can't expect him to make a ball play like that. So this was actually scored a base hit. It was hit right at him, but this scorer decided it was going to be. He first charged him with an error, and then he came back and changed it to a base hit. I've got one more for you here. Here, let's look at the. Here's the other thing we can do too. There's a camera in center field. We can look at it from the center field angle too if we wanted. Now that's out of the play, but that's just the play's not in there. But if we wanted to see a play that happened over in here, we can see it there. The other thing we've got is from the pitcher's view. We can look at a play that way. And the other thing we can look at is we can see where the pitch was thrown. You see that? Where the pitch came in, that's where he hit the ball from, right there in the strike zone. So that helps us on wild pitches or pass balls. We can see how far out the ball was thrown on a wild pitch or a pass ball. I'll show you one more here. August the 10th. Detroit. All right. Who wants to give him an error? Who wants to give him a base hit?
Base hit.
Base hit.
You all saying base hit? Are you sure?
Yep. Trying to make an exceptional play, leaping off the ground.
Well, I'm here to report your answer is correct.
Well, you told us how to make the choice.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
I'm gonna get you guys down there to help me out this year. We have we can, let me turn this back around here. We have there's three. I'm not the only scorer down there. We've got three scorers for my first 29 years. Like I said, I scored with my dear friend Glenn Sample, and Glenn passed away suddenly after 29 years, right around Thanksgiving time. And I had to go out and get two other scorers at the time. One was Mike Cameron, the man that hired me at Moeller, and a dear friend who was coaching there named Mike Jones. And the three of us score the games. I would score probably high 40s to 50 games a year, and those guys would split the remaining 30. And then they both have since retired, and now I have Bob Sherlock, who coached with us at Moeller, who's now the head baseball coach over at St. X High School, and a young man by the name of Jim O'Connor, who's a teacher at Princeton High School. And he started last year, albeit from home. So he's only got about 5 games under his belt, but the three of us will split the games this year, hopefully at the stadium. So, it's worked out real well. We've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I hope I can last for another couple, 3 or 4 years. But any questions, anything I can answer for anybody?
Got one for you, Ron,
Sure.
or Greg. Who, you're both up in the booth. The scoreboard operator's up in the booth too. Who actually tells the scoreboard operator what to put up on the scoreboard?
I do. I have a microphone and I announce it. It goes through the whole press box. And all the electronic media, the print media, and the scoreboard hear my voice. And a lot of times, if you're listening to the broadcast, you can almost hear us talking in the background. But we make that announcement, and occasionally the scoreboard will jump the gun on us a little bit. They might put up a decision before, it's rare, but they'll do it. But everybody has to wait before, we have to make our announcement, and then they'll do it. The broadcasters will, just by instinct, they'll say, "Oh, that's a hit," and then we'll come on and they say E4, then they've got to tell the viewing public that either they're idiots or we're idiots. You know where that goes. We're the ones that get told that we're
Amy,
wrong.
you got a question?
Pardon?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
By the number of games that you said you score, that tells me that you only score home games.
Correct.
So is there ever any question about the home team scoring games and discrepancies?
Well, people like to say that every now and then, but number one, we're employees of Major League Baseball. The integrity of the game is on the line. My integrity and the integrity of the scorers are on the line. And I live and work here in Cincinnati. This isn't my job. I'm actually a realtor, and I nor any other scorer ever wants to get the tag of homer. Do we want the Reds to win? Yeah, we want the Reds to win. I mean, I was fortunate enough in 1990 to get a World Series ring out of this thing, and the Reds won, but we don't affect the outcome of the game. We just affect the history of the game. And if we just give the Reds all hits and everybody errors, they don't need us to be there. They can do that themselves. And do we make mistakes? Yeah, we can make mistakes. But we're out trying to do a job that and protect the integrity of the game. A lot of times we'll get, and they have the right to appeal our plays and our decisions, and there's a process for that. But a lot of times the PR guys will come in, or a broadcaster will come in and say, "Hey, can you take a look at that again? This guy's got a 20-game hitting streak going." And what about the hitting streak of the guy that he's trying to catch? Shouldn't we watch out for him also? It's just all, to me, it's integrity and it's the game. And, they don't need any one of us to score a game if we're just going to favor the home team.
How do they pick the scores for like all-star and playoff games?
That's up to the commissioner's office. And usually in years past, there'll be 3 scorers for those. One will be the home, one of the 3 home scorers. And in years past, they'll have 2 sports writers kind of be the backup, and there'll be a 3-man team, which you don't have during the normal season, but just for the All-Star game. And you have 1 lead scorer, which is the actual scorer, and like 2 honorary scorers. But a couple of years ago, I don't remember how long ago, but it was when Kansas City was playing in the World Series. they had that system, and I think they've changed it since then because of that. But the Kansas City score got outvoted by the two sports writers on a call, and which was really wrong. I mean, the actual scorer had it right. And, so then they decided in the last couple of years they just have one scorer, and I think they, in recent years they've rotated. If there's three scores in the World Series, the lead guy might do 2 or 3 games, and the other guys might each do 1, depending on how many games they go.
Hey, Ron, early on, you said that you could get 5 hits in an inning.
Yes.
If there's a guy on second and 2 outs, and his ground ball is short and it hits the guys who's going to third, does he
Yes.
get a hit or not
Yes.
because there were 2
Yes.
outs?
He gets a hit.
Couldn't you have 6 hits in an inning then without scoring?
No, I think if you work it out, first guy in the inning gets a base hit. Second guy gets a base hit. That's 2. Okay. The third guy, the runner going from first to second gets hit. So that's 3 outs. It's 3 hits and a man on third. Then you get another base hit, it's 4. And then the next guy comes up, gets a base hit. And that's 3 outs. Because
if you got 3 hits to load the bases.
Yeah.
And then the next guy hits the guy on third gets hit in fair territory coming to home.
Right.
That's 1 out, 4 hits, right?
Yes, right.
Happens again to the next guy. That's
Yeah.
2 outs, 5 hits.
Correct.
Happens again to the third guy. That's 3 outs, 6 hits.
Well, maybe you're right.
Going back to the previous discussion, when a team goes into the playoffs, Major League Baseball controls everything.
Correct.
And that you can see all some of the ads coming down and all that sort of stuff. So it's a major change.
Hey, Ron, one additional question. Obviously, the home team provides the official scorer. Do teams ever travel with their own scorer for their own reasons?
No. We're all, assigned to our own cities. Every now and then, the 3 scores in a city, it's never happened here since I've been scoring. But every now and then, a couple scores might be sick or having something else to do. And, the guy from Philadelphia will go to Washington or Baltimore, or, they'll fill in somebody on a temporary basis. But it might not necessarily be the visiting team. It'll be somebody that's located nearby. The Reds played 2 years ago in Mexico, and they sent me down to Mexico to score those games down there, which was kind of interesting. But it was the Reds. The Reds were the home team down there.
Ron, I got a question.
Sure.
How often are the rules changed that affect you? The book you held up was from 2017.
Right. Very, very rarely. But the biggest thing they did is when they changed the rule book. I told you it's rule number 9. It used to be rule number 10. but it was. I can't really. I don't remember any specific rule that was ever changed. To be quite honest with you. Scoring rule.
Right.
Obviously, last year with the DH and all that, and the 7-inning games, and there was a couple nuances with rule changes there in determining the winning pitcher, just because of last year, and the games were some of the games were 7 innings instead of 9 innings, and there was kind of some changes there. But in a normal year, from year to year, I'm not so sure I remember anything that's changed.
Ron, 2 quick questions. First one is, if
they don't have to be quick.
Okay. If you're sitting at home watching the game on TV, do you score it?
Generally not.
Okay. The second is the technology is really impressive. What's there? Do you think it's ever going to replace you or replace this actual score?
I don't see how it can, but I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, it's growing leaps and bounds. I mean, there's still some judgment calls that have to be made, and somebody's got to do it, you know. You know, there's a lot of things that have changed, and for, you know, I think MLB has done a great job of what they're doing and the information they're putting out, and the fact that and I'm not very computer savvy, but I understand it. I can get my way through it. And, you know, last year I think was kind of a godsend that that we were at home, because it forced us to use a lot of this stuff. This Norad and this stuff that I'm showing you here is stuff that, you know, you got to be careful when you use it, because it'll take your eyes off the field. And if you get your eyes off the field, you know, I mean, I think like Greg can answer, you know, Greg he's typing and he's on his computer constantly, and you know, his eyes don't necessarily have to be on the field. He's just got to hear me, but you know, he's watching for changes and shifts, and we kind of work together, especially in today's world, you know, when they move the third baseman over on the other side of second base, and you know, they hit a ball over there, and you know, the home team, we can recognize the player. The visitors, we don't necessarily recognize. So we got to help each other, saying, hey, there's a shift on, and the third baseman is now playing in right field, you know, short right field, and things like that. I mean, those kind of things have changed for us. But, you know, it's, you know, will we get replaced? I don't know. I don't have that too many more years left. I'm 75 right now. So we got a couple guys that are 80 years old that are still doing it, but
Wow.
you know, I hope to be around for a while.
That's good.
Ron, I've got one question. And after the game is officially ended, how long before the final determination on scoring is entered?
Well, that's a great question. You know, up until this past year, we would, you know, Greg and I or whoever else was doing the data caster, it would take us about, what'd you say, a half hour, Greg?
Yeah, half hour.
On a good day, maybe 45 minutes to check our scorecards with Greg. And but last year, working from home and doing it all online, I mean, we were getting out of there in 15 minutes, maybe, with the computers. So, you know, and I usually try to get to the ballpark, you know, an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to game time. So you get 2 hours, and a 3-hour game is 5 hours. So I'm there 5.5 to 6 hours, you know, for a game. Because it's very important that we eat dinner beforehand. In case any of you know me, I've never missed a meal yet. But it's kind of nice. You go down there and you sit in the dining room, and you know, you talk. You know, the broadcasters are in there, and your friends that, you know, you have dinner with them, and it's a nice social hour beforehand. And you know, they'll talk about maybe plays from the night before, and it's great. You know, you're sitting there at a table with Joe Morgan or Vin Scully or something. You know, I was sitting there one. It's been many years ago. Vin Scully came and sat down with me, and I'm sitting there, really. You know, and he introduced himself, and I said, "You don't need to introduce yourself. I know who you are." It's really great, and the Reds are very, very accommodating down there too. They make sure we have, you know, what we need, and it's a great environment. You know, they moved the print media box last year. Of course, it didn't work. We got one like a diamond club. I don't know what they call it, next door, where, you know, the seats are $200-300 a seat, and serve you dinner. So we don't have them next door to us anymore. They're moved down behind third base and on a different level. So it's going to be interesting going back and not having them there. And but in a way, it might be good because then they don't open up the sliding glass door between us and ask us to review the play. We'll probably get a phone call now. But it's been great.
So you're in the room with the broadcasters then?
No, we have our own booth. We have our own booth. It's if you look up to where the TV booth is, if you're looking up at it, we're to the right. We're the booth right to the right, and we have a sliding glass door between us there too. And like I say, there's 2 rows. There's 2 desks. They might be 10 feet apart or 10 feet wide. And at that 10-foot desk in the first row, on the far left side is Joe Zerhughes and the PA guy. The scorer sits in the middle, and then the MLB datacaster, which is Greg, sits to the right. And then there's a second row that has the guy that runs the clock between innings, and he sits back there, and the FTC guy. What is it? Gray, what is FTC?
I'm not even sure what they do back there, to tell you the truth.
But they're I think they're doing part of the pitches and the speed of the pitches and all that stuff. They're doing something like that. I'm not real sure either.
Yeah. One thing I learned when I first started was it's very important not to encroach on Ron's space.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ron, can I take you back a little bit for a minute?
Sure.
Do you play for Stan Castelli or Sid Friedman?
Oh, I didn't play for him, but they were coaching there when I was there. Yeah. Sid Friedman could make some free throws. I can tell you that.
Yeah, he sure could, couldn't he?
Yeah,
100 in a row.
Yeah. Did you go to Woodward?
I was the athletic trainer and manager for the basketball team.
Wait, what? No, I don't have your names up here. What's your?
I'm Barry. I'm Barry.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew both Sid and Stan very well.
Right. Yeah. No, I was there. I graduated in '63 from high school.
It was a few years after you, but
yeah,
exactly. I knew they had then been there for a while.
Okay, well, let's thank Ron. It's really a wonderful evening, and
thank you. I love talking baseball.
People with their mutes on, clapping. So thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it. Glad to do it anytime.
We very much appreciate your time and effort and all that. So telling you to Ron, I know he spent a fair bit of time putting this together. So thank you very much.
Good seeing a lot of you. I know Myron Fish and I go way back. We were classmates. He's a '63 graduate, but I think he went to Walnut Hills, so he was a little smarter than I am. Good seeing everybody, and thank you again.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
See you in a few weeks, Ron.
Right. Yeah. All right, Greg. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Herb, no, he's gone. Okay. Oh.